Let me ask you something. Have you ever sat in silence after giving everything you had to someone and wondered, what did I do wrong? You gave your time, you gave your heart, you gave your kindness, your loyalty, your soul, and still she pulled away. Still she lost respect. Still you felt smaller than the man you once were. This speech, this truth isn't about blaming women. It's not about bitterness. It's about boundaries. It's about identity. It's about never forgetting who you are, no matter how deeply you care. I once spoke to a man who had just come out of a relationship that shattered him. He told me he tried everything: flowers, love letters, expensive trips, endless forgiveness. And in return, he was cheated on, dismissed, disrespected. But the worst part, he lost himself in the process. And that's what today is about. This message is not about women. It's about you, the man who forgot that his soul was never meant to be a bargaining chip. So today, I want to walk you through 5 truths, not just advice, truths that you must never forget. Because there are some things, no matter how much you love her, no matter how badly you want it to work, that you must never do with a woman. Let's begin. Enver maki har wo you parpas is the moment you make a woman your purpose. You've already started erasing yourself, and I'm not saying this to be cold. I'm saying it because I care. I'm saying because too many good men have lost themselves trying to become enough for someone else, instead of realizing they already were. You weren't born to orbit someone else's life. You weren't put here to beg for love or prove your worth over and over again. You were made to lead your life with intention, purpose, and fire. That is your mission. That is your anchor. That is your power. But somewhere along the way, men start to believe that giving up who they're for a woman is romantic, that sacrificing their dreams, goals, and routines is what love is supposed to look like. You see it all the time. A man falls in love, and suddenly he's skipping the gym, ignoring his business ideas, letting his edge dull, and centering every waking thought on how to make her happy. He becomes consumed with her moods, her attention, her approval, and he thinks, if I just give more, do more, love harder, maybe she won't leave. Oh, but here's the painful that most won't tell you: a woman cannot love a man who abandons his mission for her. Because when you abandon your direction, you lose your identity. And when you lose your identity, you lose your power. Love requires strength, not surrender. It requires presence, not obsession. A woman may be flattered at first by the attention, the devotion, but over time, that admiration turns into unease. She starts to feel smothered, not protected. Trapped, not cherished. She begins to look at the man who once inspired her and wonders where he went. It's not that she changed, it's that you did. You became someone you thought she wanted, instead of the man you were born to be. And when a man stops building, stops creating, stops reaching, he becomes a shadow of himself. And no one, not even the most loving woman, wants to live with a ghost. Think about the great men throughout history. They didn't stop chasing greatness because they found love. They loved boldly, yes, but they also stayed loyal to their calling. Martin Luther King Jr. didn't pause the civil rights movement to attend to every emotional wave in his relationship. Nelson Mandela didn't step away from his fight for justice to appease temporary approval. And no man who's ever changed the world did so by making someone else the center of it. And you don't have to be famous or on a global stage. Your purpose might be starting a business, finishing school, becoming the best father, the strongest version of yourself, the most disciplined and focused man you can be. That's your battlefield. That's your purpose. And the moment you hand that over to a woman, even out of love, you are saying, I trust you more than I trust myself. And she may love you, but she can't carry that responsibility. No one can. Purpose gives your life weight. It keeps you grounded. It shapes your decisions. It builds your legacy. And when you stay rooted in it, women respect you, even if they don't always agree with you. Because deep down, they want to know that the man beside them isn't shaken by emotion, that he's not defined by her moods, that he has something in him that cannot be touched, cannot be moved, that he is his own man. This doesn't mean you don't love her. Of course you love her. Deeply, fiercely. But love isn't about dissolving into someone else. It's about 2 whole people walking side by side, not one person carrying the other's identity on their back. You love her by standing tall in who you are. You love her by leading yourself first. You love her by keeping your fire lit, even when she's not watching. And if she leaves because you refuse to make her your everything, let her go, let her walk away, because the woman who truly belongs in your life will not want to be your purpose. She will want to join your purpose. She will want to stand beside a man who knows exactly who he is, what he values, and where he's going. So stay on your path, build your kingdom, sharpen your sword, and remember, the man who refuses to betray himself for love is the man who earns a love worth keeping. You are not here to chase someone's affection. You are here to walk in your truth. And when you do, everything that is meant for you, including love, will rise to meet you. Envy or Overexplain, you are bar to. There's a silent kind of suffering many men carry, the achy of constantly trying to make a woman understand who they are. They speak not to express, but to convince. They justify their hearts and plead for understanding, thinking that maybe, just maybe, if they say it the right way, she'll finally see them, finally appreciate the depth of their love, the purity of their actions, the truth of their intentions. But what they don't realize is this: if you have to keep explaining your worth, you're not being seen, you're being measured. You can feel it, can't you? That moment when you realize you're no longer in a relationship, you're on trial. Every word is scrutinized, every gesture questioned. You're defending your soul in front of someone who has already made up her mind. You're not building something together. You're begging for your name to be cleared. And in doing so, you slowly chip away at your own self-respect. Let me be brutally honest, love shouldn't feel like cross-examination. If a woman constantly questions your intentions, manipulates your words, or makes you feel guilty for simply being who you are, you're not in love, you're in a performance. You're walking on eggshells, afraid of the next explosion, worried that one misunderstood text, one missed call, one misinterpreted gesture will undo everything you've tried to build. That's not connection, that's survival. That's fear masquerading as romance. A man rooted in truth doesn't need to explain his loyalty over and over again. A man living in alignment with his values doesn't need to argue for his own goodness. He simply is. He shows up, he does the work, he loves with depth and honesty. And if that's not enough for her to believe in him, then she was never ready to receive receive him in the first place. Here's something most men forget: your worth isn't proven through repetition. It's not earned through sacrifice or compliance. Your worth is inherent. It's in the way you show up every day. It's in your consistency, your integrity, your quiet strength. But the moment you start trying to explain it, convince someone of it, you begin negotiating your own value. You're saying, please see me. Please believe I'm enough. And when you do that, you're no longer standing in your power. You're asking for permission to be respected. Think of a king. It doesn't go around explaining why his crown is on his head. He wears it. He commands presence, not through words, but through energy, through stature, through knowing who he is. The people who are meant to follow will follow. The ones who doubt him, he doesn't chase them. He lets them go. That's real power. That's real peace. You need to understand that not everyone will get you. Not everyone will understand your way of loving, your way of showing up, your way of being. And that's okay. The right woman won't require translation. She won't make you feel like your soul needs subtitles. She'll feel you. She'll hear the honesty in your silence. She'll see the weight behind your actions. She'll recognize your consistency as love and your restraint as strength. Stop exhausting yourself trying to decode someone who is determined not to understand you. Stop fighting for approval from someone who only gives you love in fragments. You deserve more than to be tolerated. You deserve to be seen, fully and without condition. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. Just walk. Walk away when your truth is consistently met with doubt. Walk away when your soul is treated like a debate topic. Walk away when love feels more like a transaction than a sanctuary. And here's the truth: when you stop over-explaining your worth, you begin reclaiming it. You begin to realize that the woman who's meant for you won't need a closing argument to believe in you. She will feel your energy and align with it. She'll stand with you, not because you convinced her, but because your presence spoke what words never could. So if you're in a place right now where you feel unseen, unheard, unappreciated, take a step back. Ask yourself this: am I trying to be understood, or am I trying to be accepted? Because understanding can be taught, but acceptance, that comes from recognition. And if she can't recognize the man in front of her, no amount of explaining will ever make her see. Be the man who doesn't need to argue for his worth. Be the man who lives it, breathes it, walks it, and trust that those who are meant to walk with you will never ask you to prove what they already know. You are enough as you are, not because you explained it, but because you embodied it. There is a quiet desperation in the heart of a man who needs to hear that he's enough, over and over again, from the woman he loves. He doesn't speak from confidence, he speaks from fear. Do you still love me? Are we okay? Was that my fault? His voice isn't grounded in strength, it trembles with anxiety. And with every question, he becomes smaller in her eyes. Not because she's cruel, not because she doesn't care, but because no woman can respect a man who abandons himself just to feel momentarily reassured. When a man begins to chase her emotional validation, he turns himself into a beggar of love, of comfort, of soothing. But validation is not love. Validation is temporary relief from a deeper insecurity. And when that insecurity rules your actions, you're not being loved for who you are. You're being pitied, tolerated, managed. You've traded your masculine presence for a fleeting sense of emotional safety. And that is a transaction no man should ever make. You need to understand this: a woman's emotions are her own. They are not puzzles for you to solve. They are not warnings about your worth. They are not reflections of your manhood. Her being upset, distant, or moody is not a call for you to question your value. It's simply her being human. And if you contort yourself to fix every shift in her energy, you are no longer a partner. You are her emotional servant. You stop being the calm in her chaos and just another wave in the storm. Masculine energy is about stillness, groundedness, anchoring. It's not about overreacting to every gust of wind. When she pulls away and you chase, she runs faster. When she tests and you fold, you fail. When she cries and you crumble, you become her child, not her man. A strong man can hold space for her emotions without absorbing them. He can say, I see you, without saying, what did I do wrong? He can remain whole even when she's unraveling. This doesn't mean you become cold or heartless. It means you remain solid, present, unshaken. You listen when she needs to speak, but you don't panic when she's silent. You care deeply, but you don't need her emotions to regulate your identity. That's the difference. That's what makes a man feel safe to a woman. Not because he gives her everything she wants emotionally, but because he doesn't fall apart when she withdraws. Let me ask you something hard. When was the last time you felt deeply respected by someone you were always trying to please? You see, respect is not born from submission. Respect is born from authenticity, from boundaries, from holding your center even when the winds blow. You don't earn a woman's admiration by over-apologizing, by chasing her moods, by making her feelings your scoreboard. You earn it by knowing who you are and never letting your self-worth be held hostage by her approval. You were not made to orbit around her emotional weather. You were made to shine regardless of whether she's sunshine or storm. That's what creates attraction. That's what builds trust. That's what separates a man from a boy. A boy needs reassurance. Constantly, a man offers reassurance but never begs for. A boy chases emotional highs. A man builds emotional depth. A boy reacts to every emotional shift. A man anchors so she knows where to find solid ground. There's power in being unmoved, not indifferent but steady. A woman feels most safe when she knows her man can handle her at her worst without losing himself. And that only happens when you stop seeing her approval as your oxygen. She is not the air you breathe. She is not the mirror that defines you. She is not the judge of your value. You are the man, the anchor, the steady hand. The one who doesn't flinch when the room gets heavy. And if she's distant today, so be it. If she's processing something, let her. You don't need to bend your spirit to meet her where she hasn't even asked you to go. Let her feel, let her breathe, let her return to you because she chooses to, not because you begged her to stay. Because here's the truth: the man who doesn't chase emotional validation is the man who teaches her that his love is not desperate. It is deliberate. He is not reacting. He is not seeking comfort. He is offering stability. And when she realizes that, when she sees that in you, she will respect you, desire you, trust you. Not because you chased her approval, but because you never needed it to begin with. Envy Torah to desrespiti anam. Oflovi, love isn't supposed to hurt you. It's not supposed to crush your spirit or steal your dignity. And yet, Far too many men stay in relationships that are slowly destroying them, not because they're weak, but because they've been told that staying makes them strong, that taking the hits and swallowing the insults is what a real man does. That loyalty means silence and commitment means suffering. But there's a brutal truth that needs to be faced. Staying in a place where you're disrespected doesn't make you stronger. It breaks you quietly, slowly. And by the time you realize how much of yourself you've given up, you barely recognize the man in the mirror. You see, love is not an excuse for abuse. Love is not a license for emotional manipulation. Just because she's beautiful, just because she says, I love you, after she tears you down doesn't mean you're supposed to stay. Love doesn't sound like sarcasm that cuts your pride. It doesn't look like public humiliation or private guilt tripping. It doesn't feel like walking on eggshells in your own home. That's not love. That's control dressed up in sweet words and empty apologies. But men, good men stay. They stay after she calls them names, after she mocks their dreams, after she shames them for not being who she wants them to be. They stay because they've been taught that walking away is quitting, and quitting makes you less of a man. But here's the truth. Staying in a place that dishonors your soul isn't loyalty, it's self-betrayal. There is a line, and once it's crossed repeatedly, once the disrespect becomes the norm, you're no longer fighting for a relationship. You're fighting to survive in one. And that's not noble. That's desperation wearing the mask of devotion. You must understand this. When you allow a woman to repeatedly cross your boundaries, when you stay silent after she talks down to you, mocks your family or purpose, you're not being patient. You're not being forgiving. You're training her. You're teaching her that your worth is negotiable, that your dignity has a price, that she can love you on her terms and walk all over you when it suits her. And over time, that kind of dynamic erodes you. You stop speaking up. You start apologizing for things you didn't even do. You minimize your needs, your voice, your very essence just to keep the peace. And in doing so, you teach yourself that disrespect is acceptable if it comes wrapped in affection. But real love, starts with respect. If she can't look at you and honor your heart, your effort, your boundaries, then it doesn't matter how many times she says, I love you. Words without respect are manipulation. Affection without honor is control. And staying in a situation where your value is consistently ignored is not romantic, it's self-destructive. Some of you reading this have been in that space. You've stared at the ceiling at 2 a.m., wondering if it's really supposed to feel like this. You've heard the screaming, the insults, the silence that cuts deeper than words, and still told yourself, this is just a rough patch. You've convinced yourself that if you were better, calmer, more patient, she would change. But here's the truth you've been avoiding. You're not the problem. Your standards are not too high. Your needs are not too much. You're just in a relationship that's too small for the man you're becoming. Walk away. Not out of hate, not to win, or to punish her, but because you love yourself too much to stay where your spirit is being crushed. Because you deserve a relationship where you can breathe, where you can be heard, where your dreams aren't a punchline, and your soul isn't constantly being put on trial. And if you're afraid that walking away makes you a failure, let me tell you this, it makes you free. It makes you powerful. It means you finally chose you. It means you understand that love isn't about enduring pain, it's about growing together. And when only one person is doing the growing, the loving, the sacrificing, that's not a relationship, that's a present. You are not a doormat. You are not disposable. You are a man worthy of respect, of kindness, of peace. And if that's not what she's bringing to the table, it's time for you to leave the table entirely. Let her go. Let the relationship go. Let the false version of love go. Because the moment you stop tolerating disrespect, you open the door for real love to enter. A love that honors, uplifts, and strengthens you. A love that begins with the most important person in your life, you. In hiver or masculine EDGG, there's a quiet erosion that happens to many men when they fall in love. At first, it's electric. He speaks with purpose. He moves with clarity. There's an edge to him, a fire in his belly, a direction in his stride. He knows who he is, where he's going, and what he stands for. That edge, his masculine edge, is what drew her to him in the first place. It's the part of him that made her feel safe, desired, protected, and inspired. But then, something starts to shift slowly, quietly. He begins to second-guess himself. He wants to avoid conflict. He starts accommodating her every preference, every mood, every whim. Out of love, out of fear, out of a need to preserve the peace, he starts saying, whatever you want, babe, not as a gesture of generosity, but as a habit of submission. He stops leading. He stops making decisions. He stops standing his ground. And in the process, he becomes forgettable. You see, masculinity is not just about muscles or bravado. It's about presence. It's about direction. It's about the deep inner fire that drives you to act, build, lead, and protect, not just others, but your own soul. And when that fire is dimmed, when you trade your boldness for comfort, you lose the very thing that made you powerful to begin with. Love does not require you to shrink. Love does not demand your obedience. Love asks for your wholeness. And wholeness means keeping your masculine edge alive, not as a weapon, but as a foundation. You are not meant to become passive in love. You are meant to become even more rooted in who you are. When you give up your edge, when you stop leading, when you become overly accommodating, something subtle but significant begins to die. You stop being her man and start becoming her project. You stop being a partner and start becoming a shadow. And deep down, she feels it, even if she can't articulate it. She might say she wants sensitivity, openness, cooperation, and she does, but not at the cost of your strength. Not if it means she has to lead the dance alone. Because no woman wants to be with a man she has to drag through life. She wants one she can follow, not because she's weak, but because his vision is strong. Your masculine edge is your decisiveness, your groundedness, your ability to remain calm in chaos. It's your willingness to speak hard truths, to set clear boundaries, to say no when it's right if it upsets her. It's your drive to take action, to protect, to create. It's your commitment to something bigger than comfort, it's purpose. When masculinity is rooted in integrity, it's not toxic, it's magnetic. It doesn't dominate, it inspires. It doesn't suppress, it uplifts. A man in his edge isn't a tyrant, he's a leader. And a woman feels safe in his presence because he doesn't sway with every gust of emotion. He remains still, solid, clear. She can trust his energy because it doesn't disappear when things get hard. He doesn't fold, he doesn't fawn, he holds. You must not lose that. You must protect it like your life depends on it, because it does. Not just your romantic life, but your entire identity as a man. Your fire is sacred. Your edge is not something to dull. It's something to master. Don't let fear of her disapproval convince you to become smaller. Don't let the desire to be loved trick you into becoming less. Love her, be present, be kind, be open, but never lose your backbone, never silence your instincts. Never become so agreeable that you disappear. She didn't fall for a ghost, she fell for a man. And a man who stands tall in his truth, even when it's uncomfortable, is the man who will always command respect. Because here's the reality: when you dim your fire to make her more comfortable, you extinguish her attraction to you. She might not say it, she might not even know it, but the polarity that once pulled her to you, it fades. And you're left wondering what happened, why the spark vanished, why her respect slipped, why her eyes don't light up the same way anymore. So let this be your reminder: you are fire, you are direction, you are presence. And love, real love, does not require the death of those things. It demands that you bring them fully. She wants to feel your strength, not your submission. She wants to know that if the world falls apart, you won't. That no matter how much she loves you, you never forget to love yourself. And that means never ever losing your masculine edge. So now, let me ask you again, what did you do wrong? You may have forgotten that love doesn't require your silence. It doesn't demand your identity. It doesn't mean you abandon the throne just to be allowed into her palace. This isn't about being harsh. This is about never losing yourself again. You are a man, not perfect, not invincible, but powerful beyond measure when you remember who you are. Never make her your purpose. Never over-explain your worth. Never chase her emotional validation. Never tolerate disrespect. Never lose your masculine edge. Because when you forget these truths, you don't just lose her, you lose yourself. But when you remember them, when you stand tall, with a full heart and unshakable presence, you become the man she respects, the man the world needs, that we were always meant to be. Now go walk boldly, love deeply, but never ever lose yourself again.